Divine message revealed, 3 miracles confirmed. A supernatural prophecy for you today. In the quaint rural village of Glenhaven, news spread like wildfire, 3 miracles were on the horizon. As villagers gathered near the chapel, an ethereal glow enveloped the decades-old stone walls. Was it the light of the evening sun, or something more divine? Excitement thrummed in the air, as if the very atmosphere crackled with prayers, secrets, and a heavenly promise. Sarah, a devoted mother of 3, stood at the back, her heart fluttering. She had always woven her faith into her family's life, holding tight to St. Jude, the patron saint of lost causes. She felt the pulse of the community, the hum of belief around her, but her heart was heavy. Her youngest, Matthew, was gravely ill, a shadow of the happy boy he used to be. Around her, whispers turned from supportive to skeptical. What if St. Jude fails? They murmured, each doubtful word wrapping around her like a shroud. The arrival of the self-proclaimed healer only intensified her fears. With flamboyant gestures and mysterious incantations, the man claimed miraculous cures. Even her husband, once steadfast in faith beside her, began to waver. She needed a miracle, and fast. Then, during a candlelit service, it happened. The pastor's voice soared above the flickering flames, declaring a prophecy that sent shivers through her spine. 3 miracles await those who believe. Her heart raced, a spark igniting within her. Could this be the answer? Hope lifted her spirit, electrifying her resolve. With renewed fervor, she retreated home, her prayers rising to the heavens like smoke from the candles. Before dawn, darkness softened into light as Sarah poured her heart out, her tears flowing freely. In those hushed moments, she sensed a calming presence, a wave of peace washing over her. Was it St. Jude, whispering encouragement? In that quiet serenity, the doubts faded, replaced by an undeniable assurance that her prayers were heard. As word of Sarah's unwavering faith spread, even her husband began to wrestle with his doubts. Around them, the village buzzed with talk of the prophecy. Those who had once ridiculed her now watched with eager anticipation, their breaths bated. Just as the sun peeked over the horizon, illuminating the village, the miraculous unfolded. Matthew stirred. Joy radiated from him, and laughter spilled from his lips, a melody reminding Sarah of endless grace, but the air remained thick with skepticism. Questions lingered like storm clouds. How would this moment of healing shift their fractured community? As joy surged, some villagers still clung to doubt, while others rejoiced in the joyful restoration, unaware that the final miracle was still ahead. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The sun cast warm rays over the village, its glow reflecting the hope that swirled in the air. Sarah, standing by her window, watched the villagers gather at the chapel. She could feel the shift, the tide of belief turning, though shadows of doubt still remained. Will her family's miracle unite the community? Will it banish the doubts that lingered like ghosts? As she gazed into the distance, the question loomed larger than life, an invitation to journey deeper into the mystery of faith, hope, and the power of miracles waiting just beyond the horizon. The villagers had gathered in the chapel, their faces a mix of awe and skepticism. Sarah could hear their whispers as she made her way through the crowd, her heart swelling with a mixture of joy and trepidation. The miracle of Matthew's awakening had ignited a spark, yet uncertainty clung like morning mist. Would this spark ignite a flame of faith, or would doubt snuff it out before it could grow? As the pastor began to speak again, the air felt electric. Brothers and sisters, he proclaimed, we are witnesses to the power of faith. His voice echoed against the stone walls, and Sarah felt warmth sweep through the congregation as they nodded in agreement. She caught sight of her husband, Thomas, standing tall among the other men, his eyes wide with wonder. In that moment, she saw not just a man filled with awe, but a man ignited by hope. Perhaps the tides were turning. Just then, a murmur rippled through the crowd as they shifted toward the front of the chapel. Sarah turned her gaze to see the healer, a shadowy figure standing in the doorway, his silhouette framed by the soft light. A hush fell over the congregation. Who did he think he was? The doubts and whispers grew louder, the skepticism too difficult to contain. The healer stepped forward, a cocky smile spread across his face. Step back, and let the true power come forth. He shouted, brandishing a small vial filled with shimmering liquid. I hold the key to true miracles. The room trembled with tension, a collective breath held tight. Sarah felt her heart race, an internal struggle igniting between her faith and the rising doubts. Was the healer actually a vessel, or simply a fraud? Was he leading them closer to a miracle or further from the truth? Thomas took a subtle step forward, his hand reaching for Sarah's, warmth dispelling some of her fear. What if he can help, Sarah? He whispered, glancing between her and the healer. What if before he could finish, the pastor intervened? We must remember, friends, he said, his voice steady and grounded. True healing comes from faith, not from potions or hocus pocus. Sarah felt a flicker of relief at his words. Yes. Clinical wonders could never replace the miracle of faith. But as the healer's voice boomed louder, promising riches and untold gifts, she could see glimmers of greed in the villagers' eyes. A few began to murmur excitedly among themselves, caught off guard by the allure of promised miracles without the labor of faith. Suddenly, Matthew, more vibrant than he had been just a few days before, stood at the front, practically glowing with life. I believe. He shouted, drawing everyone's attention. I believe in St. Jude, in the love of God. The greatest miracle is the love we carry in our hearts. His small voice cut through the chaos like a knife. Sarah's heart soared. Her son was a beacon, shining brighter than all doubts combined. The villagers turned to him, their expressions shifting from confusion to contemplation. Maybe, just maybe, this was a moment of divine revelation. But what would come next? Would they embrace the true essence of faith or swayed by glamour and trickery? The air thickened with a choice, a turning point where the hearts of the villagers would either unify or fracture further. As Sarah took a deep breath, the next chapter of their story loomed on the horizon in whispers of hope and uncertainty. What awaited them as they stood on the brink of such celestial transformation? Could the final miracle truly be the unity of their community through faith, or would doubts wash away the light now shining so brightly? The silence that followed Matthew's proclamation felt thick with anticipation. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing the hope swirling in the chapel. Villagers blinked, caught off guard, as if awakening from a dream. It was clear Matthew's words, pure and shining, had sown the seeds of hope amidst their doubt. The healer faltered momentarily, his bravado slipping as he gauged the mood of the crowd. Sarah noticed his facade crack just a little, his confident smile wavered. In that moment, she could sense the shift, faith standing strong against the current of skepticism. Let the light show you, Matthew continued, his small frame commanding attention. It's not a potion, but love that brings miracles. Believe in each other. Believe in God. A ripple of murmurs broke out among the villagers. Duplicity was in the air, but so was divine possibility. Is he right? They whispered. Can we let go of our doubts? Sarah saw glimmers of hope flicker in their eyes as they looked at each other, heartened by Matthew's courage. The pastor, emboldened by Matthew's light, raised his arms in a gesture of unity. Now is the time to choose. Shall we seek out the trinkets of mere illusion, or shall we delve deeper into our faith, embracing true miracles? His voice rang through the chapel, a blend of authority and love. The atmosphere thickened with potential. Sarah exchanged glances with Thomas, his grip on her hand tightened, and she could feel the strength of his belief, intertwining with her own. Then, without warning, a woman from the back of the chapel stepped forward. Her face was lined with years of struggle, yet her eyes burned with a fire that spoke of transformations long awaited. I was once lost in despair, she began, her voice steady, but through faith, I found my way again. God healed my spirit when I thought my heart would break. What do you mean? Asked one of the younger villagers, leaning forward, curiosity igniting in their chest. My husband was ill, she continued, and doctors gave him no hope. But I prayed not for riches or ease, but for strength. I believed with all my heart. And one morning, he awoke as if by miracle. Her voice began to rise, pushing through the doubts. It was not the healer, it was faith. The congregation drew together, their eyes now pointed toward her, breaths held. The past doubts were folding, replaced by the budding realization that they held the power to change their lives together. One by one, stories of hope and healing began to emerge from the villagers. An old man spoke of how prayer lifted his burdens. A widow spoke of unexpected kindness from strangers. Each narrative shimmered with testament, and Sarah felt the weight of their collective faith rising, pushing against their skepticism. The healer, now pale, tried to speak, his voice faltering, swallowed by the growing noise around him. The villagers were finding strength not in the uncommon but in the unity of their shared experiences. Look around. Sarah wanted to shout, "This is our miracle." As the warmth of each voice blended into one, Sarah felt a spark igniting within her. But just then, the door creaked ominously, pulling everyone's focus. A strong wind swept in, sending a shiver across the room, a cold reminder of the uncertainty lingering just outside those walls. The energy shifted. Could this wind be a sign? Thomas murmured, his brows furrowing, uncertain yet intrigued. As the healer retreated, it seemed as if the winds of change were entering. There was something more to be revealed, a divine message nesting within their hearts. Would they dare to step forward, embracing faith against the winds of doubt, or would they huddle back into the shadows, afraid of what lay ahead? The air crackled with questions, a divine mystery hovering over them, waiting to unfold. What awaited them in the ensuing storm? The answers trembled on the horizon, echoing silently, resonating in their hearts: trust and believe. As the wind howled, its chill danced through the chapel, stirring a restless energy among the villagers. They gazed toward the door, uncertainty mingling with hope. The vibrancy of the testimonies lingered, yet in the shadows lurked an unease that clung like mist. Matthew stood firm, the flicker of his resolve catching the eyes of those around him. "Do not fear the wind," he called out, his voice buoyed by an unseen strength. "It's a reminder that change is upon us. Every gust carries a message from above." Sarah felt a tremor run through her. Was this wind, so fierce and cold, truly divine? Or was it a harbinger of doubt, trying to snuff out the spark they had kindled? She looked at Thomas, whose expression mirrored her own, half confidence, half trepidation. The woman who had shared her story returned to the forefront. "Miracles do not come without trials," she said, her voice steady amidst the rising tension. "Remember, faith is not the absence of fear but the courage to move forward despite it." With those words, a sense of quiet began to settle over the village. They came together, each heart buoyed by a shared purpose. More villagers began to speak of their struggles, not as burdens, but as testimonies of hope. Each story interwoven, a tapestry of faith that began to weave around them. "Last year, my daughter was lost to us," a man said, stepping forward, his voice trembling. "But through prayer and community, we found her. She was found safe. That is our miracle." Softer murmurs followed, as others began sharing experiences that touched on loss, healing, and rebirth. They spoke of faith that became their anchor through turbulent storms. Each voice united, each story like a stitch binding the frayed edges of their hearts. Suddenly, the door swung wide open again, allowing a bright beam of sunlight to flood over the congregation, piercing through the chill. It was as if the divine presence sought to affirm their gathering. Sarah felt heat wash over her, a sacred warmth igniting her spirit. "Do you see?" she blurted. "Even the storm outside bows to the light within this chapel." The pastor, his heart swelling with encouragement, turned to face the congregation. "What if we let this light guide us? What if we choose to let our faith illuminate the shadows of doubt?" His voice resonated, each word resonating with energy, lifting the collective spirit. "Will we stand together?" echoed Matthew, raising his arms in fervent prayer. "Will we declare our faith, no matter the winds that howl outside?" As an uproar of affirmation took hold, the villagers began to feel a shift not just in their hearts, but in the very atmosphere that surrounded them. The winds howled and the storm surged, but inside, unity shimmered like a light shattering the darkness. Sarah looked around, witnessing faces glowing with resolve. The healer, meanwhile, shrank further into the shadows, a mere figure amidst the brilliance of burgeoning faith. Still, a whisper brushed against Sarah's ear, a divine question that lingered: what if the storms were just the beginning? What if there was a greater miracle waiting to be revealed? She could barely silence the flutter in her heart, aware of an extraordinary possibility hovering just out of reach. In this space of unity, love, and reawakening, the villagers stood at the brink of revelation. What remarkable transformation awaited them as the wind stirred? And what awaited them beyond the boundaries of their fears? An unshakable anticipation lingered, like breath held in reverence. Would they be ready to embrace the miracles that awaited, or would they let the tempest carry them away? The answer hung in the air, pulsating with sacred energy: open your hearts. Let the light in. The murmur of faith filled the chapel, undeterred by the storm raging outside. Shadows danced upon the walls, but within, hope was igniting like a blazing fire. Sarah turned her gaze back to the vibrant faces around her. In their eyes, she saw a reflection of her own spirit, flame-lit, fearless, yet yearning. "Let us pray," the pastor urged. His voice, steady as ever, wove through the air, inviting each villager to bow their heads and close their eyes. The flickering candles cast a warm glow over their bowed heads, creating a sacred circle. The wind shrieked louder, almost as if challenging their unity. But Sarah felt herself being pulled further into the light. She squeezed her eyes shut and let the warmth envelop her. A gentle vibration thrummed through her being. "Thank you, Lord," she whispered, her heart swelling with gratitude. Suddenly, from the depths of the chapel, Thomas's voice rang out with unexpected clarity. "I feel it, I feel something shifting." His words echoed back to them, wavering with a blend of excitement and fear. The pastor lifted his gaze, a spark of understanding lighting in his eyes. "What do you feel, Thomas?" he asked, curiosity propelling him forward. "It's the Spirit, Pastor. It's as if the winds are carrying messages, divine messages. A proclamation. I can almost hear them." Thomas's eyes glimmered, wild with inspiration. "Open your hearts," the elder said, excitement bubbling beneath the surface. "Let us be attuned to what is being revealed." The congregation stirred, leaning closer. Each soul seemed to be beckoned into a deeper awareness, the air thick with expectancy. Sarah's heart raced as she began to feel it too. Thoughts and prayers intertwined in her mind, entwining with the atmosphere pulsing with divine energy. The church felt alive, vibrant and electric. The once chilling winds transformed into whispers of revelation. As silence fell, enveloping them like a tender embrace, Sarah felt a wave wash over her, almost a gentle tide pushing against the storm outside. "There is a miracle," she prayed softly, almost to herself. "We can feel it, it's near." The woman from before, her presence unwavering, stepped back into the light. "Many are seeking miracles, but they come to those who believe," she began, her voice rising like a hymn. "They come to those who dare to embrace the storm and declare His glory." The words hit home. Miracles. She thought of her own wishes caught in the shadows of doubt. What if this was about deeper faith, one that transformed dreams into reality? What if our trials are invitations to experience true miracles? The pastor reaffirmed, eyes glowing with fervor. What if each one of us is a vessel for what God will do next? In that moment, unity erupted within the chapel. Hushed breaths turned to fervent prayers, each heart pouring out as the energy escalated. Villagers stood, clapping hands in rhythm, voices lifting higher in praise. Sarah rejoiced among them, her spirit lightened, as tears filled her eyes. The healer, still lingering at the back, finally stepped forward, hesitance replaced with ease. I have been silent, he confessed, but I too have felt the call. I want to share my miracle. I've watched over you all, faith has awoken me. His revelation rippled through the assembly, witness to the unsealing of hearts. Just then, amidst the tides of faith, a hush settled once again. The wind outside stilled. What does this mean? Someone exclaimed. Perhaps it means a greater storm is passing, Thomas murmured, eyes wide as understanding dawned. A collective realization swept over the villagers. What if the storms they feared were just the birth pains of their greatest blessings? What if they stood on the threshold of something extraordinary? As they joined hands in prayer, an unspoken question lingered in the air. Could it be that the real miracle begins within us, waiting to be unleashed? A spark ignited within, a shared heartbeat resonating with hope. What awaited them just beyond the veil of their belief? Every breath felt charged with divine promise. In unity, they whispered in unison, let us receive it, let us welcome the miracles. What revelations were still to come, as they embraced their journey toward the unknown? The winds outside stilled, yet within, a tempest of faith was ready to unfold. As the hush enveloped the chapel, the flickering candle flames danced with a purpose, echoing the fervent prayers echoing off the stone walls. Each villager, heartbeats synchronizing, felt the charge in the air, a sacred energy, thick with the promise of change. Together in faith, we shift the atmosphere. The pastor proclaimed, his arms raised high, drawing an invisible line between heaven and earth. Yes, yes, we are ready. Sarah found herself saying, her voice rising above the growing chorus of Amen. Among the congregation, she felt the Spirit tugging at her heartstrings, awakening a hope she hadn't dared to fully embrace until now. The healer, a man once withdrawn and cloaked in shadows, stood at the forefront, eyes wide like portals to a deeper understanding. Miracles don't just come to the lucky, he said, passion reverberating through his words. They arrive for those prepared to believe, willing to act. I have kept my gifts tucked away, but no longer. The time is now. His eyes glimmered as he gazed at each person, as if to say, you too can act. In that moment, Sarah felt a weight lift from her heart. She remembered the times she had held back, fearful of judgment, unsure of her own worth. But she was growing in faith, emboldened by the promise of miracles. Lord, I believe. Make me a vessel, she whispered, rising from her seat. Around the chapel, villagers echoed her sentiments. Hands were clasped tightly, voices intertwining, a harmonious tapestry of intentions rising toward the heavens. Let us declare our needs. The pastor encouraged, his passion igniting sparks of hope. What miracles do we seek? Speak them aloud. One by one, villagers began to share. Healing for my sister. Called a woman in the back, tears glistening. Restoration of my family. Another voiced, her conviction slicing through the room. I seek peace in my heart. Called a timid man, whose hands trembled but whose voice rang clear amidst the fervor, and Sarah she felt a surge within her. I pray for courage and guidance, Lord. Show me the path. Her voice broke but was met with a wave of support. The tension of anxiety transformed into a lovely tapestry of hope, thread by vibrant thread weaving a picture of faith. The energy shifted. It was as if they stood on a precipice, ready to leap into the unknown, trusting the net of divine love would catch them. Suddenly, the woman from the light, the one who had first inspired them with her conviction, interrupted gently. Miracles, my dear ones, don't come without a test. Are you willing to embrace what is ahead? Her question hung in the air, laden with anticipation. With a collective breath, the villagers nodded, resolute and ready for the challenge ahead. Believe, and everything shifts. She continued, her voice rising like a clarion call. What you face now shall turn into testimonies of His glory. Each prayer is a seed, nurture it, and watch it bloom. The winds, stilled outside, began to stir again, echoing the ripples of spiritual awakening breaking through within the chapel. A sacred wind picked up an enigmatic force that encircled them, whispering promises of what was to come. "Can you feel it?" Thomas exclaimed, his heart racing faster than his words. "A shift, a change. But just beyond our fears." A wave of insight rushed through Sarah. What if their faith was already changing their realities? What if they were on the brink of witnessing the extraordinary, ready to embrace hidden possibilities? Each prayer left a trace of new belief, the chapel transforming into a divine womb of miracles. They stood united, their spirits ignited, brimming with the revelation that divine moments are never far from those who trust. The message was clear, the miracles only a heartbeat away. Might they be the very vessels that ushered in the supernatural? "Let us walk in faith," the pastor encouraged. "For every storm we face, we rise higher, believing in his promises." With this whispered encouragement hanging in the air, the congregation shuffled, hearts racing. What awaited was tantalizing: a fight, a journey, and a manifestation of miracles waiting just out of sight. What if every storm embraced was a step closer to their breakthrough? Would they be brave enough to seek beyond what was visible, trusting in what was promised? The chapel filled with murmurs of faith as the divine journey continued, leading them deeper into the mysteries ahead. The air buzzed with anticipation as the congregation remained in a united spirit of prayer, their hearts quickening with the charisma of faith. Sarah looked around, seeing her neighbors transformed. The once timid glances now sparkled with unwavering determination. The sanctuary cradled them in divine warmth, each flickering candle mirroring the hope ignited within. "Take a moment," the healer urged, raising his hands toward the heavens. "Visualize your miracle, hold it close, and let it resonate in your hearts." As silence engulfed the chapel, it felt as if time itself had stood still. Each person delved deeper, casting aside doubts and insecurities. Sarah clenched her fists, feeling the pulsing energy resonate from the walls, awakening visions she had long shunned. Perhaps courage was not just a desire but a calling she could embrace. "Faith is like a treasure," the woman from the light affirmed, her voice breaking the silence gently yet firmly. "What you envision becomes your reality. Speak it, write it, believe it." Suddenly, Sarah was moved to her knees, overwhelmed by the electrifying potential that surrounded her. A prayer, raw and unrefined, tumbled from her lips. "Lord, grant me strength to face what lies ahead and courage to trust in you wholly." Tears streamed down her face as she released her fears, feeling the weight of revelation painted across her spirit. The healer stepped forward, sensing something profound rising within them. "Tonight, we share not just our needs but our intentions. For intention is a guiding star to your miracle." He urged them to speak freely, and the chapel brimmed with whispered requests and shouts of faith. Restoration. Healing. Peace. The atmosphere thickened, an acoustic kaleidoscope infused with fervent prayers intertwining like vines. A sudden gust of wind rushed past Sarah, carrying whispers of affirmation through the room. It danced among the villagers, wrapping their voices into a symphony of belief. "Hear those whispers," she thought, feeling a powerful connection to the divine happenings around her. "Indeed, miracles are taking place," Thomas declared from the back, overwhelmed by their collective heartbeat, "and they are woven into our very souls." With every moment, the intimacy of their gathering deepened. Each villager's faith kindled a flame in one another, igniting sparks of divine revelation. Sarah turned and exchanged glances with her neighbors. They shared smiles, tears, and a growing excitement. Yes, tonight was not just about asking, it was about becoming. As they laced their spirits together, the atmosphere was charged with a lucid sense of expectancy. The healer raised his voice, "Let us prepare our hearts not for what we want to receive, but for what we are becoming, for who we are in Him." The tears in Sarah's eyes sparkled like starlit dreams. The burdens she had carried felt lighter, almost slipping away as she aligned her heart with God's promises. They were at the forefront of transformation. Her pulse raced at the thought of what soon would unfold. In that moment, a radiant light softly enveloped the congregation, casting an ethereal glow across each face. Hearts thrummed with belief, faith flourished in the sepulchre of doubt. They stood on holy ground, awaiting the fulfillment of promises whispered for generations. Trust, the woman from the light beckoned, for within each storm is the seed of your miracle. Are you ready to cultivate it? The congregation exchanged determined glances. Strength coursed through them like electricity, surging alongside their prayers. The divine message was clear, they were poised for a revelation, but at what cost? Friends, the pastor exclaimed, what lies on the other side of your faith? Are we willing to embrace the journey ahead? That question hung in the air, electrifying their thoughts. What awaited them in the unfolding? How would faith ripen into miracles? As they readied themselves, a wave of anticipation washed over the humble chapel. Hope thrummed in every heart, rekindling the warmth of their shared purpose. Tonight was only the beginning. Miracles danced on the horizon, just out of reach, whispering that something grand awaited. Would they step forward boldly and unveil the life-changing grace promised to them? The atmosphere crackled with a palpable energy. As the divine light continued to shine upon them, the congregation stood ready, their collective heartbeats sinking in a reverent rhythm, echoing the profound truth of their intentions. Let the Spirit move among us. The healer called out, his voice resonating like a lighthouse beacon guiding lost sailors home. In that moment, Sarah felt a gentle hand on her shoulder. Turning, she met the gaze of the woman from the light, whose eyes shimmered with reassurance. You are not alone in this journey, she whispered, creating a cocoon of comfort. As their mutual gaze deepened, Sarah's heart caught fire anew. It was as if a divine spark had ignited within her. The burdens that once felt so heavy were now lifting like fog before the dawn. Miracles were not just possibilities, they felt like imminent realities, each prayer a stepping stone to a brighter horizon. Close your eyes, the healer urged softly. Listen for the whispers of the divine, for they will guide your hearts through this sacred transformation. His words wrapped around the congregants like a warm shawl. Sarah followed his cue, drifting deeper into a meditative state. A stillness enveloped her, broken only by the gentle sighs of her neighbors, each person channeling their own visions of healing, restoration, and peace. Then, within that hush, she felt a surge of warmth washing over her, igniting her senses. Visions danced at the edge of her consciousness, flickering like fireflies in a warm summer night. She saw her community thriving, joy blossoming where pain had once taken root. The healer's words echoed in her mind, what you envision becomes your reality. Lord, she silently implored, let this vision not just be hope, but a thriving truth. Tears coursed down her cheeks, not of sorrow, but of uncontainable joy and expectancy. The wind that had rushed through the chapel earlier returned, swirling around, wrapping each villager in a divine embrace. It was the breath of the Holy Spirit, participating in their moment of togetherness. Miracles are not merely what we seek, the woman from the light added, her voice amplifying the energy in the room. They are the essence of our very being when we align our hearts with God. Her words pierced through the hearts of everyone present, igniting commitment. Together. The pastor shouted, let us declare the miracles we desire. Restoration. Joy. New beginnings. Each shout resonated through the walls, their voices creating an echo of faith that reached the heavens. The walls pulsated with the fervor and authenticity of their requests, framing their souls against the backdrop of the divine. Then came a breathless moment. A stillness fell again, as if time paused to grant them space for what was about to unfold. Sarah sensed an overwhelming presence settling over them. It was both terrifying and exhilarating, a reminder that they were treading sacred ground. In the midst of the silence, the healer took a deep breath, his eyes sparkling with fire. Lift your eyes to the heavens and trust in the unfolding. Suddenly, before them appeared a swirling light, brighter than anything they had encountered. The collective gasp escaped their lips, a chorus of awe echoing through the chapel. Sarah stood, heart racing, as words slipped from her mouth, barely above a whisper. What is this light? What does it mean? Healer or not, she felt a question emerge, an insatiable hunger for answers that surged not only within her spirit but seemed to course through the very veins of the community she held dear. Are you ready? The voice of the healer broke through the divine haze. Ready to greet the miracles that await? The chapel felt alive. Anticipation buzzed like the wings of angels. How would this revelation reshape their lives? What lay before them on the other side of faith? As the light pulsated, beckoning, Sarah's heart swelled with possibility. What awaited them just beyond this luminous threshold? With hope as their compass, they stood poised at the precipice of change, waiting for the divine mystery to unfold. Would they embrace the journey ahead, stepping boldly into the unknown? The swirling light intensified, illuminating the chapel in a glory that seemed to pulse rhythmically with the faithful heartbeats of all gathered. Sarah felt the warmth envelop her like a loving embrace, a reminder of the divine presence wrapping around their fears and doubts, urging them to let go. Breathe deeply, the healer instructed, his voice calm amidst the dazzling brilliance. This light is a gift, a promise. Open your hearts and receive its message. Trust what unfolds. The congregation, unified in spirit, inhaled deeply, each breath steeping them further in faith and expectancy. As the swirls of light danced, Sarah felt herself drawn into it. Her worries melted away, her mind clear, and within that clarity, she began to see. Visions of her community flashed like photographs, children playing in meadows, laughter echoing, and adults sharing love and kindness. A sense of purpose emerged, a calling to serve with love, to uplift each other. Was this the miracle she had so fiercely prayed for? Beside her, the woman from the light spoke again, her voice anointed with power. This is not just for you, dear children. This is for the lives touched by your faith. Ask your hearts what miracles they seek, and be ready to embrace them. Suddenly, each congregant began to murmur. Words of longing spilled forth, filled with hope and intent: healing, abundance, forgiveness. Each request sent vibrations through the room, acquiring momentum, building an undeniable energy among them, a sacred chain linked by desire for divine grace. Watch closely, the healer called, raising his arms toward the light. The veil between the seen and unseen is thin. Let your faith pierce through. Sarah's heart raced as the light began to shift and transform. Shapes emerged from its depths, figures of those who had passed, loved ones who were now guides among them. Their faces shone with peace, enveloping the congregation in a profound sense of connection. Gasps filled the air as tears of recognition flowed, lost but never forgotten. Beloved, a familiar voice broke through, soft yet filled with authority. You are being reminded of the love that remains unyielding. Your struggles are not in vain. For every tear, there is joy that will come. The revelation struck Sarah with a force. It was her grandmother, long gone yet vibrant in this ethereal realm, encouraging strength amidst trials. See! The healer called out triumphantly. These are the confirmations of your prayers. Faith surged within Sarah as she understood that miracles were not destinations, they were journeys filled with divine encounters, wrapped in love. And the journey was just beginning, sculpted by the very desires they poured forth. As the luminous figures began to disperse softly like twilight mist, the congregation erupted in praise. Hallelujah! Echoed through the sacred space, a chorus of hope and unity. Each of you must now carry this flame back into the world. The healer declared, locking eyes with Sarah. The light you witness today is but a glimpse of what awaits you. Are you ready to share what you've discovered? In that moment, Sarah nodded fervently, her spirit alight. She felt the weight of a deeper calling. But then a hush fell over the chapel, as if the universe itself held its breath. Remember, whispered the woman from the light, with eyes glistening with wisdom, what has been revealed today is but a prelude. Are you prepared to accept the greater truths that will unfold, truths that may challenge even the strongest of hearts? The room filled with an electrifying tension. Life was about to shift. What divine revelations waited just beyond their reach? Would they lean in, breathe deep, and embrace the transformative path ahead? The air buzzed with expectation as they stood at the threshold of a new beginning, caught between awe and the unknown. The chapel buzzed with anticipation, the energy palpable as the villagers breathed in unison, steeling themselves for the divine culmination of their faith. Sarah felt a thunderous heartbeat echo within her, mingling with prayers cascading through the room like a mighty river. Their devotion had paved the way for this sacred moment, they were now poised on the brink of miracles. "Open your hearts," the healer declared, his voice a thin thread that connected heaven and earth. "What we are about to witness is the manifestation of our collective trust." The lights swirled, dancing like the wings of angels, illuminating the faces of believers with glimmers of hope. Each flickering radiance felt like a heavenly response, wrapping each villager in a warm embrace of divine assurance. Sarah squeezed her husband's hand tightly, feeling the swell of faith swelling around them, a tide rising higher and higher. The wind blew fiercely outside, yet inside was a cocoon of peace, an oasis where doubt dared not tread. Matthew stood firm, eyes wide, his small stature lit up by the supernatural glow. "Together, we stand," he shouted. "Together, we believe." With a mighty roar, the congregation affirmed, "We believe." Each voice rising higher, transcending the weight of skepticism that once lingered. Even the naysayers among them began to draw forth hope, washed anew in the sacred light of faith. A shimmering presence manifested, the figures of their past emerging amidst the brightness. Mothers, fathers, and lost children appeared, each face radiant with love, reaching out to those they left behind. Gasps erupted as familiar eyes sparkled, carrying silent messages of love, reassurance, and steadfast faith in the journey of life. The healer stepped forward, sincerity filling the space. "These are confirmations of your prayers," he said, his voice gentle yet unwavering. "Miracles are not just moments, they are connections to the love that surrounds you. They are reminders that you are never alone." Tears streamed down Sarah's cheeks as she embraced the sight of her grandmother, who had devoted her life to teaching Sarah the power of love and faith. "Strength, my dear," her grandmother's voice whispered, wrapping Sarah in a blanket of warmth. "Believe in the miracles that reside within you." The village felt an awakening, hearts ignited in a vibrant chorus of yes. A chorus that echoed across the cosmos. As the figures began to fade back into light, the villagers felt their spirits buoyed, the depth of love sinking into their hearts. "What do we do now?" a voice questioned, brimming with excitement. "Now," the pastor responded, arms lifted high, "we carry this light into our lives." The chapel erupted into a flurry of shared sentiments, dreams spilling forth like water from an overflowing pitcher. "I will spread love," one villager pledged. "I will share my healing," another declared, each proclamation built upon the last, weaving a tapestry of commitment, an unbreakable bond wrapped in purpose. They felt a surge, their energies pooled into a single focus, radiating like rays of the morning sun breaking through the darkest clouds. Sarah stood tall, her heart full and fiercely ablaze. "Lord, I accept this miracle and will walk in faith. Together, we will uplift each other." The congregation echoed her words, a tidal wave of purpose and devotion spiraling outward from that ancient chapel, flooding the village with hope and grace. Outside, the winds calmed. A divine silence fell around them as if the very cosmos paused to bear witness. "Let this light become a beacon in your community," the healer said, his voice steady. "Let your stories of miracles flow freely, touching those in despair, bringing them hope." The villagers, filled with purpose and a deep sense of unity, set forth together, hand in hand with hearts on fire. Greeted by the dawn, they stepped out of the chapel, sunlight pouring over them like a celestial baptism, invigorating every soul ready to join in the mission of spreading faith. As they made their way toward the village square, laughter erupted, and joy pulsed through the air, a sound of redemption that replaced skepticism with love. Sarah marveled as her heart swelled yet again, enveloping her family and friends in a warm embrace of divine purpose. In that moment, she realized that the profound transformation had begun, rippling far beyond themselves. The real miracle was the power of their united belief, not just the healing of Matthew but the collective revival of the village's once fractured spirit. "Together in faith," Thomas said, a smile spreading across his face, "we are now vessels of hope." And as the sun rose higher, casting brilliant hues over Glenhaven, the villagers understood fully that by believing, they had invited miracles into their lives and they were just getting started. Dear friends, this is your moment. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive faith stories that will ignite your spirit. Leave a like now. Your support feeds the algorithm and helps bring more souls to the light. Comment your thoughts, your reactions, your testimonies about this miraculous ending. Your words inspire others on their journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this divine manifestation. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true servants of God understand the importance of spreading this message. Spread the light.